I'm James Sims on BroadwayWorld.com, and I'm here in Los Angeles at Sterling's Upstairs at Vitello's. It's a great cabaret club in Studio City, and sitting with me today is the absolutely charming Rachel York, who's going to be performing a couple one-woman cabaret shows here at the club on September 9th and the 15th. So Rachel, first off, congratulations on your ending the tour of Camelot. It was seeming to be quite a success. I know you started out here at the La Mirada Theater in the Los Angeles area, opposite Michael York. How was that whole experience?
Man, it was a pleasure working with him. The entire company was incredibly warm and loving, and so it was a great group of people to be stuck with for 7 months on the road.
7 months.
And I've always wanted to do Camelot. I've always wanted to play Guinevere, and I had my little dream come true. And it was great because working with Julie Andrews, it's like it's like her spirit was around me. I could hear her saying the lines that I would say every night. So
Very nice.
it was nice. I felt her with me.
Any fun stories on the road?
There's that scene where I say goodbye to Arthur, and it's incredibly moving. And Lady Anne, who's next to me, who's helping me, you know, she has a hood on, you know, and she's about to take me off. While this whole scene is going on and we're saying goodbye, she's having a coughing fit to the left of me, and I'm feeling torn as to, is Guinevere completely insensitive? Shouldn't she help this woman who is completely having, I mean, she was like, seriously, I'm not even joking. She was, and I have to continue, and you can't hear it because I just messed up my mic, but I'm having to continue with the scene, and I'm like, gosh, what does one do right now? What does one do, because I really have to keep the momentum of the scene, or the scene is going to be ruined. Because this is a very tender moment, and a moment that everybody's been waiting for the entire show. So, but in doing that, Guinevere is going to seem incredibly insensitive to this poor dying woman to the left of her. So it was a moment I had to just go on.
And now you're doing a one-woman show here at Sterling's Upstairs on September 9th and the 15th. What can people expect if they come out to see you?
Well, my show is called For the Love of It. I'm doing this for the love of it. I'm not doing it for money. I'm singing these songs from the heart. And singing has brought me great joy since I was a child. So being able to sing great songs, unscripted, without a ton of makeup, without a wig, in a casual space is ideal.
And now you're showcasing your CD, Let's Fall in Love, and it has a lot of old songbook tunes, including the title song from Cole Porter. Tell me, what is it about the whole songbook era that's timeless? Because I can almost guarantee you that something from Britney Spears is not going to be being sung 40 or 50 years down the line.
Yeah, I guess since the lyrics and the melodies are so beautiful, and the lyrics just sincerely touch the heart. They hit everybody in the same way. They're universal. They're timeless. I don't know how to say it any other way than that.
Let's dish a little about Broadway. Tell me about your first experience on the stage in New York.
It was a Tony Award-winning show called City of Angels. And I played Mallory/Avril because it was it's difficult to describe, but it was about a writer in his own reality writing a script. So it went from the script that he was writing to his reality back and forth. And so I played everybody played two different characters. And so I made my debut as I was lying naked on a bed. I was on my stomach, and a detective is looking for my character, and he finds me in his bed, and I sing him a torch song called Lost and Found. And that was my debut, and it was fun. You know, they say that the balcony seats were the most popular seats in the house because evidently you got that view. I don't know, that's what they say, but had I known that when I was doing the show, I think I would have been more self-conscious.
And you also worked on Dessa Rose. Now, I didn't get a chance to see that show, but there's a wonderful CD recording, and I know a lot of the critics have sort of talked about it being great that it was captured in the recording studio. What was that whole show about?
It was such a beautiful show, and I'm so sorry that more people didn't get to experience it. It took place during the pre-Civil War era. It was about two women trying to find their power and their strength. And I played Ruth Elizabeth Carson, who helps a woman named Dessa Rose, as well as several other escaped slaves, to find freedom out of the South.
And the last time you were on Broadway was in a rather hysterical show, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Tell me about that.
Really fun show. I did it with Jonathan Pryce and Norbert Leo Butz, and they are a scream. They are crazy, and every night they were trying to top each other and crack each other up, and I was in the middle of it. It was a blast, and Lucy Arnaz was also in it, and that was an honor to perform with her, and she gave me one of the greatest compliments I could ever get. She came up to me one day and said, thank you so much for playing my mother with such honesty and bringing such light to who she was. And I greatly appreciated that.
And so working with Lucy's daughter and having her talk to you about your experience performing as her mother on the TV show, how did that whole TV show role come about? I mean, you were performing as the great Lucille Ball.
Well, I auditioned for it about 5 times. You know, I have this ability to do impersonations. I have the ability to hear a person's voice, and I consider myself a character actress in a way, because I see the way somebody walks, how they carry themselves. I sort of absorb their spirit, if you will, and so it was a perfect role for me to play. However, at the time, I thought for sure they're going to get Deborah Messing or somebody else to do it. And so I went in there and I dressed up like Lucy and I did it my best, but it was sort of a shot in the dark as far as I was concerned. And they called me back and they called me back again, and I got the role. And it was a dream come true, and it was so exciting. And it was very challenging because I had to learn so much material, so much about Lucy. It was just a lot of material to learn in a very short time. And we shot in New Zealand, which was beautiful, but I never got to see any of it because I was working the entire time. And I was dreaming about Lucy and doing everything. Everything was about Lucy. And I learned a lot from her. And I feel that I learned a lot about life from her in the end. And that's what it was really about for me.
And speaking of famous co-stars, you've had not only one, but 2 opportunities to work with Julie Andrews. And I was reading through your bio, and you've mentioned that she was a bit of a mentor to you. How was that experience?
Well, Julie was a mentor for me when I was a child. Her voice, the movies that I saw her in, she was an inspiration to me on that level. And then I had the great opportunity to meet her and work with her when I was 21, 22. And she was like a second mom. She was incredibly nurturing and motherly to me and watching out for my health all the time. She taught me to decorate with light colors to make more room. I mean, when you go into Julie's home, everything's cream and beige and white. So she taught me about that. She taught me about being gracious to fans and to everyone. She's a very, very classy lady, and I'm incredibly grateful for the time that I have spent with her and had the opportunity to work with her. And she remains a good chum of mine.
And then were there any interesting experiences on stage with Julie? Because I know every once in a while people have stories about working with these classic icons.
Oh my gosh, there's so many crazy experiences.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll tell you something that didn't happen on stage, but that was, it's food for thought, is that Julie always tried to, she was always good to her fans, but occasionally, you know, if she went out after a show and signed all of the autographs, all the people that were there, it would be crazy. And she was already exhausted as it was. So sometimes we would go out the back and she'd give me a ride home. Well, one day this 12-year-old boy comes up to her and says, oh, Miss Andrews, would you mind signing a couple of photos for me? And she was like, oh, all right, yes, okay. So she signs her, you know, Mary Poppins and Sound of Music, and then he says, oh, would you mind signing these as well? There were about 200 photos that he presented to her. And it was, I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that, I mean, he was only about 12 years old, but the thing is, you know, she thought that he was a real fan, but he wasn't.
He was there for the eBay experience.
And that was, yeah, and that like hurt me as well. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, something else I learned. But as far as things that were funny on stage, well, you'll have to come see the show because I'm going to tell a little story about something that happened during Victor Victoria one time.
How fun. And speaking of sort of Los Angeles iconic places, I know you recently performed at the Hollywood Bowl under the direction of John Mauceri with The Sound of Music. Tell me about it.
That was wonderful. I had such a great time doing that show. And what was amazing is that Sound of Music is, it's just such a wonderful musical. My partner in crime, my spouse, my fiancé-to-be, we had the opportunity of watching Sound of Music in Gstaad, Switzerland, which looks very much like Austria. And anyway, we were watching Sound of Music, and I guess I don't really need to tell you this, but about Gstaad and all that stuff. But being there and watching Sound of Music was fantastic. But we were watching it going, this movie is perfect. It's perfection. Every single scene is directed with perfection. And when we watched the part where the whole Von Trapp singers are singing for that huge audience, that is what Hollywood Bowl, that's how I perceived my experience at Hollywood Bowl. When I was out on stage, the audience looked to me the way the audience looked in the movie. Do you remember those scenes?
I do remember the scene, yeah.
And everybody's looking out and
right before they sprint and run.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way it looks when you're on stage.
Wow.
So doing that show and having those memories was sort of an out-of-body experience. We were in Gstaad and I went out in the hills and of course did "The Hills Are Alive."
The whole experience.
And that was just a week before I did the Hollywood Bowl.
And so you've had quite a nice little list of performances on TV. I know you've done Numbers out here in Los Angeles. And have you done any Law and Order, as everyone in New York seems to do?
No, I'm rebelling.
Rebelling. Unless they're watching right now, the casting. Do you sort of have a preference for stage or screen, or is it a little bit of both?
You know, I'm in this business because I consider myself a chameleon. And the reason I consider myself a chameleon is because I enjoy variety. I enjoy doing different things in my career. I enjoy singing. I enjoy acting. I love voiceovers. I love the stage. I love film. I love TV. I love it all. It kind of depends on what my mood is at the time. And that has to do with what characters I choose to play at the time, what, you know, where I am, where my heart is and what I need to express.
So if you're going to be in the Los Angeles area, make sure to stop by Sterling's Upstairs at Vitello's on September 9th and the 15th. Rachel York will be performing her one-woman show.
And nobody in all of us, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me down.
So if you're a New Yorker, make sure to check her out. She's going to be performing some cabaret shows there in October, and she'll be up in Philadelphia. On BroadwayWorld.com, I'm James Sims in Los Angeles.